So, welcome to Walpole United WFC.
Good evening and welcome to Walpole United WFC with me, Matt Crane. Tonight, we are discussing, is the lack of signings a concern at Man United Women? We'll also look at previewing Saturday's game against Birmingham City. So I've got Anthony with me tonight. How are you?
I'm all right. I've been in the wars a bit. I went out last weekend, and on the way back, I've been running for a train and smashed my knee in an escalator. And it's still bleeding, so I think I'm going to have to take a trip up to A&E again after this. So, but other than that, all good.
Do you know what? That wasn't the response I expected, but I shouldn't laugh, but that's funny. And joining us as well, we've got you, John. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, mate. Yeah, no complaints here, no injuries.
All in one piece. Is this your first Thursday show then? Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, first one on a Thursday, mate.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. It was when I was chatting to John. I said, I don't think John's done a Thursday. So, so debut for you and a rarity for me due to John Foster being in work. Tonight then, we may as well get straight into it. I think we'll start with the lack of news. So, obviously, there's been a lack of news now, sort of mid-January, lack of transfer news. And it came out today, or we read today, Emma Sanders in a press conference when she spoke to Skinner. She asked him about signings, and he basically said there's no signings done, none to announce, no incomings. The club had been working hard and looking, but he's not been able to find people of the right fit. And he was sort of saying the club had been researching and looking for the right people to come about, but they were sort of looking for people out of contract, which was a little bit concerning. But then I suppose on the same sort of thing, a lot of women's transfers are freebies. It's just not freebies in January. A little bit worrying in that respect. And obviously, we've still heard nothing in terms of potential contract renewals as well. I'll come to you first, John, then. Obviously, what are your thoughts just on that? Because obviously, we heard that, he was looking and close to bringing people in. And now we've sort of gone completely in reverse. We've got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's just absolutely no sign of anything at all. It's like really worrying with the amount of games we've got coming up. You think we could do with a few extra bodies in there to sort of see us through to the end of the season, but there just obviously doesn't seem to be anything on the horizon at all. So a bit of a concern, really.
Yeah, and obviously, Anthony, I'll let you sort of jump in on this as well. Like I say, obviously, I'm not going to use the word promise, but we were told that there would be incomings. And obviously now, like I say, that sort of statement, what he sort of mentioned to Emma, it's a little bit odd, isn't it, really, now? Nothing sort of seems to make sense from the way he was talking pre-Christmas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will say I'm not going to push the panic button yet. I know a lot of people on Twitter are probably going a bit overboard. If you come to me in two weeks' time, though, and we still haven't bought anyone, then I will have a different view. The problem is we were promised a few signings, and so we expect 2 or 3 signings. But if we get to this transfer window and haven't bought any new signings, or we've got one, we haven't really learned from last year. And we know what happened second half of last season. We got a load of injuries and we don't have a big enough squad to cope with it. And I hate saying it, but I can only see City are going to get stronger now. Lucy Bronze has returned, and I'm sure a few of the others are not far from coming back, and also their players are signing contract extensions like Lauren Hemp and Steph Horton today, and then you had Leah Williamson. So as fans, it's not great reading. I know I've seen someone on Twitter keeps mentioning Rachel Daly, but Mark Skinner's the only one you listen to, don't you, really? If Mark Skinner's saying there's nothing on the horizon, then it is slightly worrying.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. You referenced City there because something I tweeted earlier, quote tweeted Emma, was I put, we don't want to fall behind again. And it seems like this isn't the first time to me it's happening, like you referenced, last year when we, had chance again to get third. Obviously, we missed out by a couple of points and a big goal difference. But it's like, how many times do we sort of keep falling behind? Like you say, fully agree. City getting players back. You've still got Tottenham and Brighton, both who are strengthening, and we're sat here sort of twiddling our thumbs, which, like you say, it's a little bit like, what's the aim this season? What are we actually looking to achieve? And I'm not aiming that at Mark, far from it, and we'll get into this discussion shortly, but I just feel like you can't stand still. You've got to react. When your rivals strengthen, you've got to strengthen. When the opportunity's there to get European football, which is what we all want, you've got to take it. And it just feels like sort of, especially last season, not going to use injuries as an excuse, but, this year there is no excuse. So what, people said last year we had injuries and that was the excuse. What's the excuse this year? Where do we stand with that? John, what are your thoughts then? Obviously, like I mentioned, with obviously other people strengthening, where do you sort of sit with this? Do you think we've got a capable squad, or do you worry that, things may catch up with us?
Yeah, I think, like you say about sort of City, Arsenal, Chelsea, they always seem to get their business done very quickly.
Yeah.
And, we've already, by the looks of it, looks like Staniforth's going to be out for a game or two.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, Matt, we could end up with the same problem where we've got a threadbare squad come the end of the season. And nobody there to come in to help out. So it's very frustrating, really.
Yeah, absolutely. To answer that question, is it Matt Judge? I genuinely don't know. Somebody will. I've got a feeling he's involved, but I've also got a feeling, I've forgotten his last name, but Ben, who's like the general manager, I believe he's got sort of bits of negotiations in there. Obviously, Mark as well does sort of compile things together. He was the finance guy as well. I've forgotten his name now. But yeah, John Fry makes a good point. Joel Glazer mentioned about, improving everything and money would be there. Here, TJ explained, tried to sign some players, but they chose not to come here. One springs to mind that, again, Emma tweeted about, close to signing with Arsenal was Stina Blackstenius. Again, John Fry saying squad's not good enough. Director of football as well can help. Again, that's not even been sorted. I understand it takes time, and we'll get that sort of on my list as well as lack of scouts, but it just seems a mess. Anthony, obviously, if we come to you on this, and then if you want to jump in, John, obviously we've had targets, and as mentioned there, have they gone elsewhere? It seems like it. This is a very valid point. Blackstenius was one. Begs the question, how many other people have we missed out on? We've been in for other people in the past, and lost out to City. Now, obviously, these clubs have got Champions League, but to me, it's like, do you feel we're slow to react maybe in the market? Because I'm thinking if we leave it another week, you're scrambling around for players. The window shuts the 28th, which is a little bit earlier than the men's. It sort of feels very panicky then, doesn't it? And you're sort of scrambling thinking, God, I best get somebody in. Is that sort of the worry from your point of view then?
Yeah, you just mentioned the word panic. It's all good us getting these players, but where are they coming from? But then I don't want us to get to like 3 days before the end and then someone comes in, but it's a panic buy. If for whatever we find a gem that no one knows about and it turns out to be a brilliant signing, then so be it. But there's having depth, but in that depth, you want the quality as well. There's no good like having someone. We used the goalkeeper situation from last season. There's no point having someone like Mary Earps and then challenging her going to be Emily Ramsey. That Mary Earps is not going to get dropped for whatever reason, And I've mentioned it before with the Burnley in the FA Cup. She didn't even start one of the other keepers. So you want to have people that are going to challenge. And I think it goes to show when we got Sophie Bagley in, it's definitely helped with Mary's performances and that. And it's the same when Millie was out. I don't think Maria did a lot wrong, but it's that competition, isn't it? It's no point getting people in that are just going to be there. Well, we've got to play you because we're short and we've got no option. So, yeah, no. We want to get people that are going to prove the squad as well as the depth. People mention the Champions League, but we need the three teams above us. They've all got a better all-round squad, so something has to give. You have to get them players to try and build on it to qualify. And then once you get on that ladder, you have to stay on that ladder, not fall off. You only have to look at Liverpool. They've won before it was the WSL, or quite be wrong, they won the league 2 years in a row, and then 5-6 years later, they're battling to come back up from the championship. So you can't afford to stand still, because yes, we're Man United, but if we have like a load of people go out and then we replace them with mediocre, then you don't know where it's going to leave us. We need to be pushing forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Come in, John.
Yeah. Like I say, if we get 2 or 3 injuries, and like I say, we'll be in the same situation as last season, where we end up falling away from the Champions League places again. But especially up forward, centre forward, that's where we're really sort of lacking at the moment. And I think that'll, if nothing happens, it'll end up coming back to haunt us like it did last season.
Yeah, spot on. I think I just want to come back to this point here. Thinking about that's a very good point. They can't seriously be doubting and wondering who to sign, because you sort of we constantly heard under Casey we had a plan, and we hear it under Mark we've got a plan, and Tooney signed a new deal and she said, I'm staying here because I've seen the plan for sort of 3 to 5 years and we're going after this player and this is the target and this is the aim. So it sort of begs the question, what's going on? And I think for me, what's going on is exactly what John says here. Money not being given to Mark. I've read a lot on Twitter and everybody seems to, at the minute, be bashing Mark. But I genuinely believe that it's not his problem. Or it's not that it isn't his problem, it's not his fault. He's been promised targets or money, money to strengthen. He's been promised better facilities, things like that. And these people, for me, aren't delivering for him. And that's on the club rather than Mark itself, There's been a lot of talk, where's the LJ money gone? Now, it was rumoured, and I don't know how true this is, that we got 40k up front. And then there's, performance-related bonuses. Obviously, she's injured, but it begs the question, where has that money gone? Because it's certainly not been reinvested in the squad for me. So I don't know if you want to talk on that, Anthony. Do you feel it's the board? Do you feel it's Mark? Is it a bit of both? Or where do you sit on that one?
You only have to look at, I know I keep mentioning her name, but Casey. There's a reason why Casey went. And if they were promising her this and that and that, now Casey had more of a temper, I think, and she would have demanded it a bit more, whereas I think Mark's a bit more laid back, unfortunately. So no, I don't think it's Skinner's fault. I just think the club are, it's sort of like you sort of ponder, well, if this is what's happening, then you can understand why she left last season. So, and they've something's got to give, but there's only so much he'll take. I think he'll take a lot more than what Casey did. But if he's not going to get any support and they show that they're being serious, then like I said, it starts slowly, but you can all dwindle down, and then we're on this show talking about a club like Man United are battling relegation, and we're not about that. We're about winning. Man United's a winners club. I know the men aren't really winning much at the moment either, but I still think generally if the board fully backed Mark and that we and got us the right players, and he looks, this is who I want, this is who I need. Set targets. If you give me this, I'll get Champions League, and then they can review it, and like if they can decide whether he's got far enough. But there's no point saying, yeah, we'll give you this and that, and then because we're not. I think other than Russo being fully fit this year, the squad isn't better. Well, it's a funny one. I think in some aspects it's better, but in other aspects it's not. Like up front, Russo, we've still got the same problem. We don't pull the ball in the net. City, I keep talking about their injuries, but they put six in against Brighton in one half. When do we ever score 6 in one half? Scored 5 against Leicester.
When do we ever score 6 in one game in the WSL, barring, is it Bristol?
Bristol City, yeah. 5. They scored 5 in one half against Villa. So it's that, isn't it? It's getting the squad to where they need to be, but you're only going to do that with the quality of players we get. So,
yeah. Do you want to jump in on that, John?
Yeah, it's like you say, if we end up 4th or lower at the end of this season, it's sort of like we've not really progressed in the last 2-3 years at all. And like Anthony says, the squad's probably not really improved in that space of time as well. So yeah, it's kind of seems like what's almost like what's the point? It's if you're not gonna push for those top 3 places, then you know, it's not what they're doing really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also one more thing, Craig. It's not just getting the players in; it's the players that are there. If they're being promised this and that, if Tooney's been promised, oh yeah, this is the plan. It's the same 3 years' time. If we're still in the same, well, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, I love Man United, but Chelsea are offering me a 5-year deal. They're winning loads. And yeah, that's how that's when we spiral down the table. We don't want to be. We want to be going the other way. So it's not just players coming in, it's keeping the squad happy as well. If you're promising them this and that and there's nothing, then it doesn't bode well with the squad, because they must be told that this is the plan. We've got a plan in place, and because Man United is a pulling power in the name, but there has to be the other stuff there as well to convince them. They don't. You're not going to come if you go, well, look, we're not going to be battling for the top 3, but we can offer you this, and a great club being Man United, because you want to win stuff. You choose this career because you want to win stuff. You put in the hard work to win trophies.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think that's correct. Like, you know, like you say, you don't turn up just to kick a ball about, so to speak, at Man United. You certainly don't. I think, you know, for me, we need to sort of, like you say, decide what we're doing, because in 3-4 years, have we actually progressed? Maybe not. But I just feel like, for me, you know, like you said, Anthony, obviously John mentioned it as well before, you know, we're having the same issues every year. We're missing a striker. We're not clinical, things like that. Then when we look at it, you know, we seem to go around in circles. We promised the earth, we delivered very little. You know, if we're sitting there making cup finals and competing for the league, it's not as big an issue as it could be now. But the fact that we're still lingering around 4th and 5th, getting to quarters or semi-finals of cups and then repeat sort of season after season. This is the 3rd year in the WSL, and it's like, what's going on? Under 2 different managers, it's bizarre. I'm going to go through a couple of comments, things like that. Yeah, no lack of plan and how to close a deal. Again, you got to wonder, haven't you? And I'll sort of ask this to you, John. Do you worry maybe how we're putting out the plan, so to speak, how the negotiations are going? Do you think the club or the people negotiating for the club are maybe selling the club properly to players? Because at the minute, it's very bizarre, isn't it, so to speak? What do you think?
Yeah, the lack of sort of news and, like I say, other than Tooney, we've not really heard of any, players signing on or anything like that. It's very worrying now. There's sort of like nothing coming out of the club at all as regards to, re-signing players, especially now we're sort of into January, over halfway through the season. You'd like to think that they'd have most of them sewn up by now. So it just makes you think that there's going to be like a bit of an exodus again, like there was last summer.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. We'll go into contracts in a minute. Anthony, again, obviously we've just all mentioned about we don't think it's Skinner's fault. And again, as mentioned there, is signed players for pride. So it does beg the question, and even at Birmingham, listen, he got Birmingham City in an FA Cup final and top 4 in his final season there. So it's not like the guy is, had loads of money there, but that's not the point at Man United. You should still be, if you promise something, the board needs to deliver. Again, another good point here. Millions and millions on the men's, but when we want 100k for the women or 200k, all of a sudden it doesn't seem to get anywhere. And I think, again, it's not like we're talking, can we have 10, 15, 20 million to spend on one player? We're talking 100,000s, if that, so very, very weird. Vincent mentions here, false promises, the whole of the club. Yep, spot on. Get to that, obviously, as I mentioned, Jackie and owners' contracts coming to an end. They walk for free. They could potentially negotiate now for free. 6 months left on the deal. Again, very worrying. Josh says here, owners feel too many problems with the men's team, maybe haven't made plans for the women's team. Potentially, again, I think it's easy, isn't it, when sort of the owners don't as such get involved with the day-to-day running. It's easy just to generalise. And I think that could be it. The women's team's probably more enjoyable for fans than the men's. Probably has been for a while, being fair. Again, might want to go to a team that had Champions League, potentially. But I always think, it's Man United. If you took a bit of extra cash at it, I personally don't see why you would go somewhere else where you're not guaranteed games. Would you sit on the bench at, say, a Chelsea or an Arsenal? A bit like Nikita Paris. We had an offer in for Nikita Paris. She's going sitting on Arsenal's bench. That's one example. It's very strange. Do not have Champions League. I don't know how I feel on that. We'll talk about that. John, do you feel Champions League affects recruitment, or do you think it's just maybe something where it's not the be all end all?
Yeah, I can see the appeal of it. But like you say, it's not it's not like as massive as perhaps what some people make it out to be. I don't think. The bulk of your season is obviously your league and your domestic cups. There's only potentially 6 games in the group stage they play now. In the Women's Champions League. So, and a lot of the time in those, they're not playing the biggest of sides in the competition at that stage. So it's, I think really, I don't think the Champions League should be as big a deal breaker as what people make out of it should be.
Yeah, I think another thing as well, just before I come to you, Anthony, is, even prior to the group stage, finishing 3rd, we wouldn't have even made the groups. We've had to qualify. And that itself, look at Man City, has thrown up difficult games. So, getting in Europe would be fantastic. But I just feel at the minute, and I said this sort of, few weeks back, maybe a couple of months back, I don't think that the squad this year, had we got Champions League last year, would be good enough. And I genuinely don't think we would have made the group stages as the squad stands. Anthony, is Champions League be all and end all for you, or are you sort of feeling like me, where chuck a bit of money and offer game time over sitting on somebody's bench?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I think, Craney, like you said, you mentioned it. It's all right qualifying third, but I agree with you with the squad we got at the moment. I don't think you only have to look at City. They didn't even make it, did they, properly? So we've talked about it before. You want to have the squad that is ready to compete in the Champions League. You don't want to just be there to make up the numbers like some of the teams are from their leagues. But I still think why we're obviously doing it different to Man City. City chucked a load of money at it, and it got them there. I think, unfortunately, with them three teams in the WSL and teams like Tottenham and Brighton getting better, I think that is the way we're going to have to do it if we're being serious. I think money talks these days. Let's say, as long as you do it sensibly, obviously you can throw money at it and buy players. Like, just look at Newcastle United, for God's sake. Why have they bought Chris Woods for 25 million? I wouldn't want to do that, like buy someone like that over the top. And they're not really improving the team. It's just could be seen clever. He scored 3 goals all season for a team that are down the bottom. So there is throwing money in it, but it's throwing money at the right players and players that are going to get us to that Champions League pool. And then, but because once we do get there, I do think we will go strength to strength, but we can't be relying on just getting there with this squad and then look, we got Champions League now. It's very much. I know there's not much money in the game, but no, I think personally, you've got to throw enough money to get on that ladder, but sensibly.
It's interesting because it's providing a lot of decent discussion in the chat as well. Obviously, John here says Champions League is a red herring. City had 2 rounds and not a mass exodus. This sort of links in with what we'll get onto shortly about owner sought after Jackie, being a good signing if we don't book our ideas up. I want to sort of bring in what Natalie's on about. We had Emma Sanders on a couple of Mondays ago, and she was saying, Spurs and West Ham have got big budgets. They've got money to basically chuck at it. Obviously, Brighton, we know sort of a different approach at Brighton. Hope Powell slowly sort of mix of youth and experience. She's very good with a transfer business. She gets the scouting done properly, basically. Then we've got sort of here, money's not the only thing that talks. Things like that. Natalie, then again, which I want to get onto this debate about scouting. Scouting targets and options. She's saying here we just throw money at people and hope, and I think that's correct. And again, no alternative. If you look at recruitment since season 1, since we first started, I think it's been very hit and miss. And I don't know, without going through all the names, I don't want to say it's more miss than hit, but it certainly feels like recruitment's very dicey. If we get somebody and the gamble pays off, then it's all good. But it's strange. Obviously, reading a few more. Natalie's further down, supposed to be a list of players. And obviously, like she says there, we should have wrapped up Stina. To be fair, we should have been chatting to Stina in summer and sorted out a pre-contract for Jan, so that when she expired, we were straight in there, because I'm pretty sure it was reported that we were the only English club in the summer. Now, how true that is, I don't know. But I'll start with you, John. Obviously, no scouts, no director of football. It is hard to recruit that way, I feel. But do you think that could potentially be holding us back? Because Natalie mentioned it before, why aren't people going out there and looking at these players 6 to 12 months in advance? Why is there no system in place to help Mark to say, right, okay, we'll go and watch these players in person, or if it's difficult due to COVID, we'll go and do some scouting and we can watch online, because there's plenty of streams and places to watch football these days. Do you think that's an issue in itself from the club in terms of not fully helping him with resources?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems as though there's a distinct lack of structure in terms of certainly the recruitment. And like I say, one or two signings the last couple of years probably not worked out as expected. So I think really they need to look at that, certainly for next season. As regards getting director of football, all that sort of thing in place, so that we've got more of a plan, and we can get sort of players in right time, sort of, instead of having to do everything last minute and panic buying, like you say.
Yeah, Anthony, do you want to come in on that? It's another good comment here from Amy. When Greenwood left, there was no backup plan, and there wasn't. We just chucked we chucked all the Greenwood money, 40k on Lotta. That was an absolute shambles of a recruitment. Signing. Harsh as that sounds, it's the honest truth. It didn't exactly work out, did it? Whether that's due to herself or recruitment or the club, I don't know. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about that then.
Yeah, that's what I mean about, it's all right throwing money, but you need to throw money out on the right players. And you mentioned Lotta, that was clearly one that didn't work. And then we had that for a season. We were quite lucky we got Una, which is, she's been great, but she's one of these ones. We talk about contracts and that, I'm pretty sure, but is up in the air. So, like I said, you want to be keeping them as well as attracting players. But if your best players are going, then it is hard. It is hard. But like I said, there's throwing money, which is, it's crazy, isn't it, when we talk about 100k. And then you look at the men's side of things and you're getting people like Harry Maguire coming for 80 million. I know, don't get me wrong, I know the men's side does bring more of that financial gain, the money. But like someone said in the comments, fortunately with our owners, it does seem to be a bit about money. It has been for quite a while. We haven't really won anything, have we, in the last few years? What was it, 2017? We won the FA Cup and the Europa League double with, was it Mourinho or something? Or no, Van Gaal won the FA Cup and then Mourinho won the Europa League. But so, yeah, no, it is.
The thing is, for me, people talk about 100k, but don't forget 100k got Everton Valerie Govan. And she had, one good season, half a good season. So it just shows, I think it was further up. Somebody said money's not the be all and end all. And it's one of them. It's how you spend it.
Yeah.
Like you said, if there's no scouting system in place and you've got, you could have all the money in the world, but if you waste it on absolute drivel like that, look at their signings, look at their squad. How many of their squad have worked out? What they've chucked ridiculous money at. Probably Hannah Bennison. Isa Christensen came on a free. That was a shrewd signing. Sandy McKeever came on a free, but you look at some of them international ones they've brought in, and it's not been great scouting by them. Again, whether they have scouts, I don't know.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I said. It's all right throwing money, but you want to be throwing money at people that are going to improve the squad, not just because you're getting players in. Because, like you said with Everton, it hasn't worked out, has it?
Yeah, I think this is a good point. I don't know if you want to add to this, John, about too many questions. And I think what's possibly meant by that comment is too many questions in sort of direction of the club in terms of the backing, in terms of what we're trying to achieve. I mean, it's all great saying we've got a plan. I could say I've got a plan. From me as a fan, I've got a plan for what I want to see in 3 to 5 years, but it's how you execute it. What do you think then? Too many questions as maybe a player from the outside looking in?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of the players will probably look at how Casey sort of departed, and all the sort of stories around that, and perhaps that's a bit of a red flag sort of thing as regards to how the club's being run compared to the other teams.
Yeah.
So you can sort of see why we've got this problem about signing, struggling to sign players. When you look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just reading this by Dennis there. Willingness of the board or lackingness of the board. Again, something we talked about earlier. What else have we got? 5th, 6th place team. Solid signings, could compete. Yeah. Lack of scouting shows. Agree. Director of football as well. Players do have to fit. That's massive. I just think it's bizarre because we'll get onto contracts now. There was something from Jackie the other day, and she sort of said, she was a little bit concerned about the facilities, and this was not too long ago. This was an interview that was probably from about 12 months ago, but it's only sort of been brought back recently. And she was sort of saying, it was a concern. It's slowly getting fixed, but I just think, looking at out of contract players now, we mentioned Owner and Jackie. I think I'm sure Alessia's got an option, but again, lack of communication and clarity. Anthony, I know you've talked about this before. Do you want to start us off with the out of contracts?
Yeah, like we said with Owner and Jackie, they're the players you want to be keeping happy, you want to be keeping, because if they go, then you're having to get players in their positions that are just as good or better. And it's just you're not getting anywhere, are you? You're just replacing one player, and it's not even guaranteed. You're not guaranteed if Honor goes, you're not guaranteed to get a player on her level. Like I've mentioned names before that I've like that Maya Leticio from Brighton. She would be a great signing, I think, but it doesn't prove that she could come in and struggle being at a bigger club. I don't think she would. She's been in with the under 18 group in England and all that, and I think she would do well. But you want to be building and strengthening our squad, and if we're losing, that's another thing. You got to wonder why are these players not signing new deals.
Well, I'm just reading this here. All three have +1s. And now I knew Alessia did. I wasn't 100% on Jackie and Owner. So if that's that, and then it's just a case of, well, club and player obviously need to agree. But it's like, if the option's there, have we offered it? And if not, why? Like, why is nothing happening? Is it met by games? Is it a case of both sitting down and both agreeing? Like, why isn't it happening? I don't know if you want to jump in on that, John, and then we'll move on to Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real coup when we got Jackie when we came up from the Championship. So it'd be a real shame if if she just ends up going at the end of the season, for nothing and without having really, won anything or really done anything like that. So they really should be pulling out all the stops really to sign Jackie again, I think. And the same with Honor. I think both of them you really, really struggle to get a replacement as good as either of those two.
Yeah, I think just reading comments as well, if it's same as the men's, player doesn't need to agree. So if the player doesn't need to agree, that's even worse. Like, what are we doing? Do you know what I mean? If the player doesn't need to agree, let's just exercise it now. What's this one here by TJ? Players are waiting to see how much the season goes. Again, possibly. Could be waiting to see promises from last year we delivered, i.e. Jackie, like I was saying with training, do you hang about and do you wait and see? I mean, potentially, if you know that you can go to another team and sort of probably walk into that team as well as, and probably get more money and compete for trophies, could be an option. We'll move on to Birmingham. because we've hammered the club enough now. And that's sort of that on transfers. I'll start with yourself, John, then obviously first game back for us. Obviously West Ham was postponed due to COVID cases in their camp. How do you see it going? And I know that sounds cliche because every January we seem to have a mare, but do you get a feeling that this year or this season may be different? Or because I know it's something Mark spoke on before, he sort of said, let's not focus on that. And he kept going on about we've got a plan and we've got a process. But is that just words, or do you genuinely think that, we should have learned, from previous years?
Yeah, you'd like to think we were a bit wiser to it now, but I mean, they've not played for over a month now since we played Villa. So they're bound to be a bit rusty when they come back. And obviously Birmingham have already had a game and played very well, I thought. Watched the game against Arsenal and thoroughly deserved to win. So I'm not be as confident as I probably was before I watched their game last week. Just hope that, like I say, they just switched on from the beginning and managed to get control of the game early on.
Yeah, I think January is almost like an important month. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking fixture-wise, obviously Conti Cup thrown in there, FA Cup the end of the month. It's one where we could very well, and I mean, obviously I'm not expecting it against Bridgewater, but we could very well end up out the Conti Cup and, sort of behind in the league as well. But Anthony, I'll sort of come to you in January and then we'll talk about Birmingham's result against Arsenal shortly. But what are you thinking? Obviously, looking at the fixtures with what we've got, obviously we've got Birmingham, like I said, we've got the Conti Cup in there, we've got Spurs, we've got Bridgewater. What are you thinking in terms of that then?
I think we should be looking to win them all, as you should be looking to win every game. But like you said, we seem to struggle after Christmas, especially the first game back. You only have to, it was a couple of years ago before COVID kicked off. We played Bristol City, bottom of the league. We did control the game, but the important fact was we lost 1-0. Now, Birmingham surprised everyone last week, didn't they? But if they work that hard again, then we're not going to have time on the ball, and we like time on the ball. We like to have that bit of time on the ball so we can take an extra touch. And that if Birmingham don't allow us that time, then we could struggle. Especially like John said, it's been 3 weeks since we've played now against Villa, so we've got to go in and straight from the off. We can't afford to go 1-0 down. Like, well, you saw it with Arsenal. It looked like Arsenal hadn't knocked off their Christmas dinner. We can't afford to be doing that, especially if we do want to get top 3. So then you've got the Conti Cup. We need to play on our game and we need that bit of luck. But if we work harder than them and get that bit of luck, then who knows? Yeah. Everyone's there for the take in the WSL. I do my show all the time and I'm like, this isn't going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's like when Chelsea lost to Reading, none of us could see Reading winning that. It's the same with the Birmingham game. So it very much depends how you play on the day sometimes. Sometimes you can get away with it, playing not so good and you do scrape the win. But a lot of the time, if you're having an off day and that, you get punished. So
yeah,
I fully expect us, in general, we should win 3 of the 4 in January, but nothing's certain, especially this year in the WSL. There's been a few shock results.
Yeah, I think that's it, though. Thinking about it, like you said, I think they've got a different manager to the last time we played them. And as mentioned, they look good on the counter. I think somebody said it in the comments there. Look good on the counter. They worked hard, battled for it. I was actually more surprised, not at the win, but the clean sheet. They fully deserved the win, but I was just shocked that they kept a clean sheet because I thought, yeah, here we go. But it's one of them where that will give them the confidence. Everybody, same as last year, everybody had written them off. Carla Ward kept them up last year. They've been written off this year. They've changed the manager. And I don't know if any of you saw the analysis, what Karen Carney did on Sky Sports, but it just showed they were forcing Arsenal into mistakes. They split them centre halves very, very wide and then got in between and hit them on the break. I think it's like you said, Anthony, we spend that much time on the ball instead of moving it quickly that you just worry that switching off, is going to lead to an absolute nightmare.
Especially with a certain someone, but we won't mention their name, but I think you know who I mean.
Yeah, if it's the person you're thinking of, then it's the person I seen yesterday evening. Forward you on about?
Forward, I thought you on about midfielder.
Oh, I was thinking he was going to say something about Libby Smith, but no, that's fine.
Oh no, I was on about Man United players affording to have too much time on the ball.
Right, yeah. We'll not go there. That's a whole other show. But yeah, I just think it's one of them. People would have looked at this sort of prior to Arsenal result and thought, yeah, we'll smash Birmingham, not a problem. Yeah. But you look at it now and you actually, if you're looking at it with a sensible head and a balanced view, you look at it now and you're thinking, God, they're going to be absolutely bouncing. Everybody's writing them off again. They're coming here as underdogs. I'm sure they'd be happy with a point, to be fair. None of us would be. But I'm pretty sure, from what I saw of them, like I say, against Arsenal, there was enough there. And listen, Arsenal were flying, top of the league, and they made them look just amateur, daft mistakes, like I say, kept a clean sheet. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously that word you talked about, Anthony, about the long sort of time off, I'm going to use the word momentum. Other teams are playing closed door friendlies. Last week we weren't. So, I mean, listen, that might not be sort of our fault, but, again, there's a comment here about, crowded the passing lanes. Pick the passes, Arsenal were too slow. And I think one thing we are on the ball, and I've said this a lot, is very, very slow. It's very passive. It's like left back to centre half to the other one, out to the other full back, into the centre mid, backwards. And we might have to change it up against Brum. We'll start with sort of what we're expecting then, John, in terms of maybe lineup formation, because obviously recently, sort of as recent as December, we sort of went to a 5 in midfield, didn't we? What are you thinking then, or what would you personally go for or like to see against Birmingham? Do you think stick with that? Is there any personnel or changes player-wise you bring in, or how are you thinking?
Yeah, I can't see him really as making many changes. I think it'll probably be probably the same team that played against Villa pretty much. Other than obviously it doesn't look like Staniforth will be playing, so there'll probably be one change in midfield. But I can't see any change in formation really. I think I'll probably go with the same sort of lineup. It seemed to work in that game. It's just if Birmingham come out with the same intensity that they did against Arsenal, then they could cause us some problems, because I think Arsenal, they were a bit shell shocked really by Birmingham's pressure, and they just couldn't handle it, I don't think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the only changes we'll probably likely see, obviously you mentioned the Villa teams, obviously both fullbacks should be back now from COVID, Owner and Hannah. But I think it's interesting, obviously, like we said, we've learned that Stanny was out. However, if Jackie's match fit, I mean, I don't think she'll start just because of the long absence and the lack of games. I do think she'll come on, but it's a chance for somebody there, to sort of stake a claim in the middle. Whoever that'll be, I don't know. Anthony, are you sort of similar to John, pretty much apart from fullbacks?
Yeah, there'll be three. Did Lucy Stam start against Villa? It's been that long ago and so much has happened, I can't remember.
Good question. I can't remember either.
Because if she started, there'll be 3 changes. You mentioned the fullbacks.
I think she started, didn't she? Because didn't she score at the start of the second half?
Yes, she did. Yes,
I think
yes.
I'm sure she started.
I remember that.
Of course she did. Yeah. So, or did she come on?
Let's have a look. No, she did start. She started on the right.
There'll be 3 changes. Then it will be the 2 fullbacks for me, and then was it Vidabarisa? I'd imagine if he'll do the 5, won't he? He'll do Barisa.
Yeah, so last time it was Risa and then Stanny and Tooney wide and Russo up top against Villa. I've just got it up.
Yeah, see, because we Galton will push up further, I think, now that we've got Honour and Blundell back. So Leah will just push up. So actually, it'll only be 2 changes. It'll be the fullbacks, but then they'll just accommodate Leah up further up.
Yeah, as opposed to left back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quickly answer this from Vincent. How long do you think it will be when they will stop asking to see passes? Oh, at the women's games, there's no... Well, I know Chelsea are asking for it, but as far as I'm aware, apart from Chelsea, there's nobody else because it's under 10K checking it. To answer that, I don't know. In terms of the men's, I've no idea. I just know some grounds it's been chaotic and you have to get there mega early. Like earlier than we normally do. Some of us get there for 10. But yeah. But no, I think you're both spot on. I think I'm expecting similar in terms of like, you know, the lineup. I think that midfield, it worked well in terms of the 5 in there. And it just, the only thing missing, and I go on about this a lot, is the lack of support for Lessie. You know, I really do feel that hampers us. So I'd like to see more with that. But I think for me, it's just a case of going there, move the ball quicker and just seeing what we get. Listen, I'll take a 1-0 win as long as we win. You know, if we start slow and it's a bit of a scrappy game, we get the win. I'm not too fussy. You know, for me, a win will be a win. And then that sort of takes you into, you know, next week. A little bit of confidence sort of after the break and then off we go. Anthony, I'm going to come to you on this. Obviously, talking Birmingham, we're talking lineups, we're talking formation, we've talked about Arsenal, but I'm going to ask you for a score prediction and maybe a goal. Well, yeah, chucking a goal scorer as well.
All right. Like you said before last week, we would be like, oh, it'll be about 3-0 United. But I just think with Christmas, and we're a bit slow to react after Christmas sometimes, I do think we'll get the win, but I don't think it will be a comfortable win. I think it will be a tight. I'm going for 2-1, and we'll give Toonie a goal. 2-0 score. She'll kick off from where she ended last season.
Yeah,
last year anyway.
Last season, which one are you picking?
Yeah, last year, as in the last game, Villa and all that.
Yeah. So. Fair enough. John, yourself?
I think I'll go 2-0. I think it could be 0-0 at half time, and then I think we might get I say maybe Toonie and Vilda in the second half. I think first half it'll be might be a bit cagey, a bit tight, and I think we'll just sort of. We feel Birmingham out. You know, they'll probably be a bit more cautious after that, our Birmingham were in that Arsenal game. So, yeah, hopefully 2-0.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to agree. I'm going to back Toonie and Russo for 1 each and say 2-0. Obviously, we won 2-0 away. Thought we'd get more, but we didn't. But yeah, we've got a couple of predictions. 3-1 there. John Fry says 1-1. Now, another thing. I want to mention sort of Kirsty and a couple of the younger players. Kirsty hasn't played too much this season. Could this be an opportunity, Anthony, for her? Or, you know, obviously with Stanley missing, or do you maybe think that it's an opportunity? I mean, Carrie Jones is back fit. Could we potentially throw her in? Like I say, obviously Stanley's been out wide. You know, could we see more development players? Would you like to see more development players? Obviously, we're in the window and there's still people like Maria Edwards that haven't got a loan that probably deserve better sort of level than devs. What do you reckon?
It's that fine balance. I feel you want to give the devs chances, and if they're good enough, like Carrie, she's done nothing wrong when she has had her opportunity to play. She's taken it well, so it's great if they continue in that famous form and that and give it time. But the most important thing is the result, and I'd imagine Hansen will start. I'd like to see her get back to how she was at the start of the season, because she did have a good start to the season. But I think if we remember rightly, she was up top, which she did all right, deputising for her when we didn't have a striker. So, yeah, it'd be good to give Carrie and that a chance, but I think the Bridgewater game is that game. Like, we don't want to underestimate Bridgewater, but if we're going to give players a chance and some experience like Maria Edwards and that, then that's the game to bring them in, a couple of them around all the experience, and it'd be a great experience for them. But no, I think Hansen and Galton will probably be on the wings, but we'll see, won't we?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just thinking about this here, potential lack of confidence. I mean, it's difficult because we're not using our wingers in them two as wingers as such. Like you mentioned, I think at the start they were cutting in, weren't they? Sort of inverting as like wide forwards. But I think for me, and I'll sort of finish with you, John, for this, Hansen needs a consistent run of games, I feel. It's no good at sort of being in the side and then out the side. He needs to use it proper, because I think when we see her, she gives her all, she fights for the team, she's on top form. But do you want to just talk about sort of Hansen and then anything you want to add on the devs or Carrie Jones, and then we'll end it there?
Yeah, like say with Hansen, she's never really had a long run inside. Certainly not started many of the games this season. So, like you say, it might be down to a little bit of lack of confidence. But it'd be good to see her down on the right wing against Birmingham. And same thing with Leah, really, as well. Obviously, she scored down at Birmingham in the away game. So hopefully, I think she's been a bit lacking in confidence as well this season. So might be a good opportunity for those two this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to the end of the show, so I want to thank you both for coming on, and everybody as well for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments. Tomorrow, Anthony, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your show, what you've got coming out at midday with John?
Yep, I got my odds on show. I will say now, we are hoping for it to go out at midday. I don't know if it'd be pre-record live, maybe possibly, but once I've spoken to John, then we'll let people know via Twitter, so people are in the know. But
perfect.
So thank you very much. But and we've got a full round of fixtures to talk about at the moment. So providing there's nothing overnight, that's great news.
Yeah. Don't jinx it. And obviously as well, we've got Friday Night Fans Forum as well tomorrow evening with John. Saturday's match day, and then me and Benny are going to whiz back and do Saturday Night Live. And Sunday, we've also got a bonus show, 7:00. We've got it's only a short one. It's not even really a show. Me and Gareth did a little bit of a away day trip with FC United. Got invited on the bus, so we've done a little bit of sort of a match day blog. Sort of 20-25 minute video that we've edited together. So yeah, that's your Sunday treat. Yeah, thanks again for everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.